everyone, and welcome. Thank you all for joining us today for this live stream event. Again, if you tried joining the link earlier and ran into an issue, thank you for exiting and rejoining. We had a little bit of a technical issue with the link earlier. My name is Rebecca, and I'm the event planner for Microsoft Reactor New York. Before we begin, I'd like to quickly review two items, our code of conduct and the event guidelines. So Microsoft Reactor seeks to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and our presenters. We encourage engagement in the chat, but please be mindful of your commentary to remain professional and on topic. Definitely feel free to let us know your experience levels. If you're a beginner, if this is a new topic that you're exploring, so on and so forth, we love to hear it, and feel free to drop questions throughout. This session is being recorded. You won't appear in the video, and the recording will be uploaded to our Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel for on-demand access. I'll be sharing that link in the chat momentarily. If you have any questions, again, as I just mentioned, feel free to drop them into the chat. We'll have one of our wonderful technical moderators here, April and Ricardo, answering those questions for you, as well as Justin and Matt while the session is live. If you need closed captioning, it is available. Feel free to go ahead and turn it on. You should go into your settings and see the CC option. In today's session, we are joined by Matt Zakup and Justin Yu of Microsoft for this session on Fusion Development 101, which is a Introduction to Professional Developer Essentials. The session will run for approximately 60 minutes with time for questions throughout. If you have not done so already, I dropped into the chat. Please check in to receive the session resources, and we'll also be sharing a couple extra links with you momentarily. At this time, I will let our speakers, Matt and Justin, get started. Welcome. Thank you both. Sorry, Matt, you're muted.
No, this is how you know it's live, is that when everybody starts making mistakes. So, hi, everybody. My name is Matt Zakup, and I am joined by my favorite person in the entire world, Justin Yu. Justin is the most busy person in the world, too. He's up at Justin, what time is it over by you right now?
Hello, everyone. I'm Justin, and I'm from South Korea now, and it's now 8 o'clock in the morning.
So that's not too bad. It's 4 p.m. here over on the West Coast. Yeah. I say good night, and Justin says good morning. So we wave to each other as the day starts.
We always confused. We always confuse. Good morning. Oh, no. Good afternoon.
Yeah. So today we're here to talk about Fusion Development 101, our professional development essentials. And this is a really cool, super cool topic, and it's something that Justin and I have been doing a lot lately, and we're really excited to talk about it with you all. So I'm going to go ahead and share my slides and get started so we can talk all about it. All right, so let's get into it a little bit. So what Justin and I have put together with the help of several other people is actually a Microsoft learning path. And this talk is derived from that. And so that learning path actually has 5 different courses on part of it. And Learn is totally free. If you want to go out and learn more about this, you can take each one of these modules separately and get a better understanding about it. And actually, there's tons of different modules on it too. But this one is geared right for Fusion development, or the intersection of professional developers and citizen developers creating web APIs for use in Power Apps. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, discovering and using web APIs with Power Apps. And so if you want to, after this module or after this course, go ahead and take this module, aka.ms/reactor-fusion. That'll jump you out to the module itself, and you can actually walk through it and do everything that we're talking about today, but on your own time. So super cool. Justin and I will talk about everything here today. Then you can go out and take it on your own. Let us know what you thought about it. And yeah, that's great. So Justin, tell us a little bit about what we're going to learn today.
Sure. So after this session, we are expecting, and you will be expecting to create a custom connector using API management, and create a custom connector using an OpenAPI document, and finally use that custom connector in a Power Apps app to call a web API. So after this session, you will all expect those 3 things. Sounds good?
Cool. I love it. And so how about we show a real quick demo of what it all looks like. All right. So what we have here really quickly is just kind of what we're going to run through. And we're going to add some Swagger to ASP.NET Web API. We're going to actually go out and quickly publish it to Azure. And not only to Azure App Servers, we're going to learn how to publish it to API Management as well. We're not going to go this fast, though. I mean, this is how fast Justin works all the time, but not me. But so we're going to learn all about this, though, and publish to Azure API Management. And what's super cool down here is that you can export our API Management to Power Apps. And then we're going to finally learn about how to actually use our API that we made in Visual Studio. It's an ASP.NET Web API, published it to Azure App Service, published it to API Management, and we then consumed it in Power Apps. So that's going to be great. And throughout this, we want people to, everybody to say hi to us, ask questions in the chat. We have some great chat moderators. April Dunham and Ricardo Duncan is behind the scenes answering questions. They will throw any questions up to us too. And so yeah, we want this to be interactive. We'll stop and say hi. Justin and I have actually, we did this talk once before at Build. And what's great is that we love answering questions. During that session, we really didn't get the answer. It was kind of straight through. But here it's going to be a little more relaxed where people can just ask us questions that we can stop and answer them. So feel free to, to answer questions or ask questions, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get into it. What is Fusion development? So Fusion development, it's a very interesting concept. So normally what happens in software development is, I'm sure that a lot of you are aware of, and you've been doing day to day, is that IT and professional developers, or people who develop applications for their living, they get together with the business folks, and then they get the requirements, and then IT professional developers just kind of go and they develop the apps, and then they come back. So they kind of go and they develop it in silos. But now in Fusion development teams, what happens is that Power Apps enables the business professionals to create applications themselves. And so what that frees the professional developers to do then is to create the powerful and complex data logic in like web APIs, but they also can use Power Apps too. So what essentially has happened, what's different between a regular development team and a Fusion development team, is that what we call citizen developers, or the business professionals, they're creating apps. And it's really neat because like a tech intensity, the ability for companies to drive adoption of new software really increases and empowers everybody to fast iteration. And so it's a very cool way to develop, or really, as it says here, create better apps faster. And everybody's bought in, and everybody's really moving super quick. And so, but when you're developing a Fusion app or a Power app, and we think about it from a citizen developer point of view, is that not everything can be created right within Power Apps. Power Apps is amazing. We'll take a look at it a little more, what it's all capable of in this session. But a lot of times you might have to go out to a web API and like pull data down from a database or something like that. And that's going to be created in a high code way, or like with C# or something like that. And so you might have to call out to a traditional developer or a professional developer to do that. And so we're going to show that intersection today of a citizen developer writing a Power App, calling out to the high code or the professional developer, and how they can come together and have that intersection and really increase the tech intensity or the Fusion development. So Justin, tell us all about then custom connectors or how that plays a role in this.
Sure. So what we are going to use throughout this module is the web API. So we assume that we have already got a web API to fetch the list of the data from the APIs. So how can we get the list from the Power Apps then? So this is the magic. We are going to use the custom connector. But what are the custom connector? So actually, Microsoft provides hundreds of connectors, Power Apps, and to Microsoft and non-Microsoft services. However, within this module, we use the example, the Van Arsdales. So Van Arsdales inventory management system, you may want to communicate with your internal web APIs. So in that case, there is no connector for it. So custom connectors, this is where custom connector is really important. So you create your own custom connector with your web APIs, hosted it within Azure API Management. And the Power Apps can invoke that web APIs through the custom connector. Does that sound good?
No, I think it's a really powerful idea, and it's such a cool idea when you actually when you see it work. And one of the things that enables that is Azure API Management, and we saw a little preview of that before in the opening demo. Is so Azure API Management, to explain it just a little bit more, is an Azure service, and I love explaining the name because Azure does a great way of naming things. Azure API Management. What does it do? Well, it manages APIs, but it does a whole lot more. So let's imagine that you wanted to subscribe to like a service that does, you wanted to add weather forecasts to your app, right? And so you would subscribe to a service that provides that, and they provide it via REST services. So it's an HTTP service that you go out and you get like the daily forecasts from. And so you could actually provide that forecast service through Azure API Management, because it gives you a way to like version your APIs. It gives you a way to combine APIs from multiple different sources into one portal. Like, so if you had microservices, think about if you had APIs all over the place on different like Azure App Services, you can make them available all through one area. It gives you a way to do like API tokens with it, so you can have like subscriptions to various APIs. So this is really super powerful tool, and so you can administer all your APIs from one central spot. And what's super cool about it, and what we'll talk about today, is that you can actually export anything that sits in Azure API Management, so you can use it right in Power Apps, and that's what we'll be using for. So I've been talking about a lot about the external uses of what Azure API Manager is for, but you can also use it internally just amongst your own company apps as well. So Justin, do you want to take us through on how we're actually going to create then a custom connector?
Sure. So this is a very brief screenshot of how we can create a custom connector. So Azure API Management has a feature that creates a custom connector directly from the API Management instances. So as long as you have got the Power Apps license, you can export that custom connector to your Power Apps environment directly from the API Management. So after exporting that custom connector, you can see that custom connector created on your Power Apps Studio. So there is the one interesting concepts. Can you proceed to the next slide? So while you are building a custom connector, you may have heard of connection. So there is there are a bunch of icons here. So a custom connector is the wrapper around the web API, so that which we just created from API Management. So it allows Power Apps to communicate with the web API. So connector knows where the API location is and what sort of operation we can do, right? But custom connector itself does nothing unless you create a connection for it. So the connector, as I said, knows web API's host, so where the location is, and how we can communicate with it, so the operation details. And connection knows the credentials, has a reference to the connector that facilitates the communication with the web API. So there are subtle differences between connection and connectors, and you should know it, right?
All right. Yeah, and that's something that we want to keep in mind. They're named too closely. But yeah, right. Yeah. And that's something well, you definitely want to keep in mind because you'll see it over and over again.
Mm-hmm. So let's create a custom connector directly from the API management. Right. So I'm going to show a demo. And before that, let's do these things. First of all, we have already the Learn module. Then we have already created the web API application inside already. So download the sample application for this exercise and deploy this application to Azure through through the PowerShell. Then let's start from there, right? So we start that. Yeah. So we have this you see the Learn module. Then we have the link there down there. You download the web API files from GitHub. So when you click that, then you are directly redirected to the GitHub repository. Then you will be able to see the right-hand corner download button. Now that download button, so lead you to download that the artifact. Then when you download that artifact, then you can extract that artifact into your directory, then folder. Then within that artifact, and there are a bunch of files, but you don't need to worry about that. So just open a PowerShell console, then run the PowerShell script. So which is the setup.ps1, right? Then that file is actually the what we are going to run. But before that, we need to log into Azure first through the Azure API, Azure CLI. So there are a bunch of files here. Then there is a setup.ps1 file, which is PowerShell script. Then you may be asked to run this one because it's downloaded from the internet. So yeah, just say yes. Then it will deploy everything, like creating the Azure instances, and then deploy the web API application to Azure, then create the web API management instances. So everything is done, right? So we already hosted everything. Then back to the Azure portal, then refresh the one. Then you will be able to see that the API management instance. Then here, that API management instance, first of all, we just open the API key for the future use, then copy this subscription key now here. Then back to the API, the blade, then you will be able to see that API inventory management just we deployed, right? And click the three-dot button, then there is a button called exports. Then click that the Power Apps and Power Automate, create custom connector, right? Then choose the Power Apps environment. So as long as you, at this stage, as long as you have the license, you will be able to see that environment and give the name, API name, custom connector name, then create, export the custom connector. Then now after that is created and back to your Power Apps Studio, then go to open the custom connector, the panel. Then you already have the bunch of the custom connectors here. Then find your the custom connector we just created. Then by searching the inventory management, that's the name of that we have created. So there we go. So we click that button and create the plus button to create a connection. So that subscription key we just copied from the Azure portal, then create a connection. So we just see the custom connector. Now we create a connection to the connector, API management, right? So such that connection by using the inventory management. Then here we go. This is the connection, connection to the API management through this custom connector. So here we go.
Right.
So we now all have the connection and custom connector.
Cool. And so one thing that I want to point out is that we did do all these in videos, because if we did it live, it would take forever to do, because we are deploying to Azure. We have to deploy to APIM. We have to deploy to Power Apps. And we would probably spend an hour just waiting for all the deployments to get done. So Justin and I figured it would be best if we just put these all in the videos. So again, if you have any questions about what we did during the video, please feel free to pop them in the chat and we can explain them too. As well. And that's one cool thing. Way back in the beginning, Justin does have the deploy scripts all set up where it creates all the Azure instances and actually deploys the web app too. So you actually don't have to do any coding. Justin took care of it all for us. So
yep, that's for it. So if you go through all the Learn module, there are already artifact link. So you can just simply download and execute it.
Cool. So Justin, what do you think that we should do? I think we should have a learning check.
Sure. So we have talked a lot of things for now. So until now, so probably it's better to get some checkpoint for our attendees to have check their knowledge.
Yeah, I agree. So I'll ask this first question. And so what is the least relevant while creating a custom connector from API management? So out of these three choices, which one I guess is not right? So Justin, how about you and I run them down together?
Right. So the question is a little bit tricky. So it's,
yep.
we are choosing the incorrect answer.
Yep.
So the first option is each API in API management has the export menu to create a custom connector.
Well, that sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
So it must be the wrong answer.
Yeah. So we have. So I showed you within the demo. During the demo, there is an export button to create a custom connector, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So that is not the least relevant. So that's not the answer. And so B, Azure API Management offers the feature for the direct creation of a custom connector for Power Apps. Well, we know it does that because we saw you do that in the demo. So that's a real thing. That's correct, but it's not correct for the question. That's not the right answer.
Okay. So yeah. Within the United States, it's evening time, so you might lose some the focuses, but focus on. So which one is the correct answer? The option C is to use the custom connector within Power Apps. You don't need to create a connection for it. So there is some sort of tricks here. So I keep saying, and Matt keeps saying, there is a difference between connector and connection. So what will be the answer?
Yep, it has to be that one, because a connector is the wrapper, right, Justin? That's just the wrapper around it. It tells it like where the API is, the URL, and where the connection is the keys. It has the user ID and the password essentially. And you need it. You need both.
Yep, that's right. So yeah, Bradley, yay! Bradley answered correctly. Congratulations.
Cool. All right. So those are that's directly exporting. But let's talk about OpenAPI for a second, Justin. And so what is OpenAPI and why should you use it? Well, OpenAPI itself is a standard. It's a standard for describing web APIs of what they look like, and it's both machine readable and human readable. You can take a document that's defined against the OpenAPI standard. It comes out as JSON, and you can read it, and you'll be able to tell exactly what the web service does, what it returns, and what inputs it needs. So like the actual object types that actually send in and what object types it sends back. And even better off, it's language agnostic, meaning that you could write a web API using .NET. You could write a web API using like Ruby, Node.js, whatever you want. An OpenAPI document can describe it. And then once you have that OpenAPI document, you're good to go. You know how to use that web service no matter which language it was written into. So that's OpenAPI, and it just gives you like this abstraction layer over your web API, so anybody can use it. And it's, like I said, human readable and machine readable. And so that machine readable part comes in right here. In that you can see over on the right hand side is that looks like a thing from Power Apps, new custom connector. And so what we can do is import an OpenAPI file. And so then that OpenAPI file, which describes our web API, once you import it, we can actually now know about it. We're creating that connector. We don't have the connection yet, but we have the connector. Instead of exporting from Azure APIM, we're now importing from an OpenAPI file, and it tells us like where the web service lives. It tells us what the inputs and outputs look like and everything. So it's like creating this connector via the OpenAPI. And you can do a ton more of the OpenAPI files, but for our purposes here, that's what a great benefit is. So Justin, you want to tell us a little bit about the OpenAPI document for custom connectors?
Sure. So there are many advantages of using OpenAPI document to create the custom connector. So, but the following the benefits are the most crucial for the citizen developers, because nowadays professional developers include the OpenAPI document generation capabilities in their web API, the application. So it means you can download the OpenAPI document as a citizen developer. So you can download the OpenAPI document directly from the application and create a custom connector for it. So by doing so as you can see the slide, so you remove dependencies on professional developers team, right? So you don't have to ask them again, we need this, right? So all you need is to download that OpenAPI document for your custom connector thing, right? Also, so the OpenAPI document actually, OpenAPI document is the contract. It has all the definition. It doesn't have any implementation on it. So web API itself can independently developed by professional developers. And you, as a citizen developers, can create a Power Apps application by using OpenAPI document without having to rely on the web API. So as we are professional developers, then you don't have to worry about how the citizen developers build their application in their cadence or something like that. So this is really good benefits of using OpenAPI documents. So, cool. So when we see the custom connector perspective, so what are the differences between the Azure API Management and OpenAPI documents? There must be some questions around these two. So let's briefly compare to each other. So from the API management perspective, the API management contains the centralized set of different APIs. Actually, the name says it has a bunch of other APIs as well. So therefore, oops, something comes off from my wall. So therefore, you need to, so you can create a custom connector from one of them. On the other hand, OpenAPI document belongs to one specific API application. So you can create a custom connector only from it. And API management can handle complex API structure because it deals with different APIs. Again, OpenAPI enables the application has a relatively simple structure. Through API management, we can put extra security on top of what the OpenAPI documents requires, such as the extra security, which means OpenAPI document can provide like a one API key authentication or OAuth authentication. But on top of that, API management can put more security layer on that, so you can safely use it. Also, we can handle each API usage through the API management. So API management we can see what sort of API is more frequently used or not, or something like that. But while OpenAPI document doesn't have this kind of feature. So for those extra capability, of course, the API management costs a lot higher, a little bit higher. But on the other hand, OpenAPI document doesn't have such kind of cost. And finally, is the similar to the API structure. Just I said, API management has a higher architectural complexity, while OpenAPI document is relatively simpler and lower.
Cool. And I love this slide, Justin, because when we were originally doing this, and you're telling me about how you could actually import an OpenAPI document and make a connector out of it, I was like, well, why would I want to do that when I could use Azure API Management? But a lot of times Azure API Management might be too much for your certain situation. And so this slide really kind of it does a great pros and cons of each and shows you, I think, when you would want to use each. So. All right, so we're going to take in the next next demo and show actually how to create a custom connector from an OpenAPI file. And so this is going to be a fun one because we'll actually get to see what an OpenAPI document looks like. All right, and so here we go. I'm going to open up the OpenAPI document right now. Actually, what I'm going to do is accidentally go too fast in my video. Again, you know we're live when there's mistakes like this. All right. So open up the OpenAPI file right here, and you can actually see what it looks like. It has security definitions that Justin was talking about before. You can actually, when I scroll down here, see the paths at the bottom. Like, so this one's going to be located at /API/warehouse locations. It has a Git operation on it, which is cool. You can see what it's going to produce. It's going to produce a text.json, and it's going to return a 200. So by me looking at it, I know exactly what it's going to do, which is really neat. And even like what a warehouse city is going to be, and it's going to be an array. So now it's time to actually put it in. So what I'm going to do is go to custom connectors, and I'm now in I'm in Power Apps, and I'm going to say new custom connector, but import from OpenAPI file. And I'm just going to give it a name real quickly, and then I'm going to go pick it out. And so you might remember this from before when Justin did this when he actually had the export completed. So now I'm going to pick it, and then I have to find it, found it, and now I can actually change it around if I wanted to change the color or something, and then click create connector, and then I see it again where if I wanted to update the colors of the image or whatnot. So cool. I hit close, and then I get to go find it again, and there it is. So now here it is creating the connection to it. So this now creates a connection to my API data. So before we created the connector, and now we just created the connection. So now I'm going through and looking through all the connections I have in Power Apps to see if it's there. And there's a whole bunch of them there, a ton of them there. And they're all blurred out, so you can't see what they are, except for this one. And I open this up, and there it is. I can see my OpenAPI, and even Power Apps shows me what's currently using it. And right now there's nothing, but we will eventually change that. But so that's super cool, is that we went through, we took that OpenAPI described file, we created a connector out of it, went through and created a connection out of it by sending in an API key, and then now here we have the connection, and it's going to be ready to use pretty soon. So Justin, I think it's now time for another knowledge check. See what we have.
Yeah, before going to there, so Bradley has got a question for us. So
Okay.
he mentioned OpenAPI document, and as you showed during the demo, I think we have already covered it, but so it's worth to mentioning again. What version of OpenAPI document are we going to use to create a custom connector?
2.
That's right. Yeah. So OpenAPI, as Matt mentioned, so OpenAPI document version has now it supports a version 3, right? Version 3.1.0 something. But for custom connector, we support version 2, which is also known as Swagger before. And also, yeah, Ronald asked another question that the OpenAPI is OpenAPI Swagger? So what do you think, Matt?
I think there's great confusion on that, and a lot of people refer to it that way, and it used to be that, but it no longer is that, and it's because, Justin, can you explain it better than I can? Because Swagger and Swagger spun off OpenAPI as a definition, and now it's a definition, and Swagger's a company, and you have Swagger tooling that can read in OpenAPI documents. And Justin, take it from here.
Okay, so it used to start naming Swagger, and then the company SmartBear started using the Swagger. Now it becomes so popular, and then it becomes OpenAPI, which is the standard document. So the official name now is OpenAPI. But as we already mentioned, there are 2 versions: OpenAPI version 2, version 3. So when we say OpenAPI document, it typically says version 2 and 3 altogether, but more specifically version 3. But if you can say Swagger, but when you say the Swagger, then it's specifically called OpenAPI version 2, right? And yeah, don't confused about the Swagger. Swagger is the private company name, and the OpenAPI is standard, the open standard, the API, the specification definition.
What I like to think
makes sense.
What I like to think of it as is Swagger. Yep, it's the company, and it's the tooling that you use either to make an OpenAPI document or like test one or whatnot. So it's tooling, and the OpenAPI is just a specification of what it needs to look like.
That's right.
But it used to be the same thing, which is terribly confusing for everybody.
Okay.
OpenAPI, Swagger and OpenAPI mixed together. That's what I saw somebody refer to it as yesterday. All right, Justin, you want to read this question for us?
Sure. So another question time. So there are several ways to create a custom connector for Power Apps. So another tricky question. What is not the way to create the custom connector?
All right, so let's talk through this one again, Justin. So, well, I remember seeing you do exporting it from Azure API Management. So I know you can create a custom connector from there. Okay. So that's not the right answer.
So we can create a custom connector directly from the API management. Then, and Matt just showed, we can import OpenAPI file to create a custom connector. So which is good.
Yep. And so then, well, process of elimination, the WSDL file. Can't do it, huh?
Can we do that?
I don't think so. Web service definition language.
Yep.
Nope.
It's quite old-fashioned way.
Yeah. You remember that, Justin? Do you remember?
Yeah,
it was painful, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was.
I remember there was books on it even. It was, whenever I saw one, I was like, oh no. Time for another coffee break. I'll let somebody else do it. All right. So, well, now that we have the custom connectors created, we probably should test them. And Justin, I know you would be a great person to tell us about that.
Sure. So we have just created to create a custom connector in both ways, through directly from the API management and directly from the OpenAPI files. But once we create the custom connector, we need to make sure whether the custom connector works as expected. Right? So within the Power Apps Studio, we can test the custom connector. So before the test, we need to create a connection that I mentioned earlier and test the OpenAPI, test the API operations. So once you finish testing, you are good to go with the custom connector within your Power Apps. Right? So let's do the demo again for the custom connector testing. So what I'm going to do is test the custom connector. So we have already the custom connector created. Then we are going to use it. So here is the inventory management, the custom connector. Then click the pencil button. Then you will be able to see the whole bunch of menus. And you don't have to do all the things again. Just go into the test section. Then we have already created a connection for it. So you will be able to see the connection part. Then at the bottom corner, there is the endpoint, so operations. So just simply click the test operations, or sometimes you might need to add put some the payload details or parameters, something like that. In this case, we just click the test operations, and it will return those results. That's the successful thing. Then I just simply disable the web API side. Let's see how it's going. Then it fails. What that means is that for some reason the custom connector doesn't work properly. In that case, as if you are a citizen developer, you don't have to worry about that. So just simply ask the professional developer who is in charge of backend web API. Then they will fix it, right? So in this case, for some reason in the maintenance mode, they have disabled the web API so that this kind of error happens. So they will probably know, at this stage, okay, so I will make the web API available. Then you will be able to see that, something like that. So this is how we test your connection or custom connector is available or not.
Yeah, and that's a great feature to have in Power Apps Maker, Power Apps Studio, is the ability to actually test it before you even put it in, and you can see the results come back through, so you know what to expect before you use it in your Power Apps. So that's really neat. Here we go.
Right, another test.
All right, so I'll read this one out. So when we're talking about the differences between a connector and a connection, and we love to talk about those because it's a very important concept, which one is not correct here? So again, we're looking for the wrong answer.
So the first option, A, is a connector has the information about what the APIs look like. So does it make sense? I think so, because the connector knows where the API is located and how we can how the operations working. So what sort of information do we need to pass, or what sort of information do we expect from the API? Those things the connector has.
Yep. And B is that a connector has information about how to communicate with the APIs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oops, I spoiled.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, obviously that's correct. Oh, yeah, because it says like the one that we looked at. For me, it was the OpenAPI said a GET request, and then we created a connector right off of that. So the connector must know about that GET request then. So that is a correct one. Okay.
The third option is that a connector knows the connection details to the APIs, like authentication details. Oh, okay. Does that sound correct?
Nope.
I think it's the other way around. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The connection knows the connection details, or the authentication details, not the connector.
That's right.
Yeah. So C is the answer, but let's talk about D really quick before we move on. So a connection knows the connection details, right? Exactly, on how to connect to the APIs, including authentication. So the connection has the keys, and the connector has the details of what things look like.
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay. So now we get to put everything together. We have the web app deployed out in Azure somewhere.
Okay.
We have the custom connector built from it, whether the app resides in Azure API Management or somewhere else, it doesn't matter. As long as we have the custom connector built out of it, we can now then create a Power Apps Canvas app. And so this is really neat, is that we can then, Power Apps itself is an amazing application. And what we can do then is really just hook it up. And it's really easy, as you can see in a screenshot here. We're just going to be saying, you know, like .get API warehouse locations. And that's going to call it to our connector. It's going to call it to our web API and bring everything in. So let's actually see that in action. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a Canvas app. We're going to bring the custom connector into that Canvas app, and we're going to invoke it, and we're going to get the data back. So let's see it go. All right. So what we have going here is going to create a blank Canvas app and give it a name. So you can call it whatever you want. And then we're going to make it a form factor. So whether it looks better on a tablet or on a phone. And so we'll pick phone here and then click create. So it'll spin itself up. And then when that's done, you get this. It looks just like a phone tablet. And what's neat about this is that you can, well, first off, we're going to add some data to it. And then we're going to pick out our data source. And from there, we're going to say connectors. And so that's what we're looking for. And inventory management's the one that we want because that's what we created before. And so once we have that, then we're going to, so the inventory management then has been added to our app. We have that. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a button to our screen. All right, so now I have a button on there. And what I'm going to do for the on select is that I'm going to clear a collection. And then I'm just going to make one up right on the fly. And so then say clear collection, and then warehouse management dot get warehouse locations. So I want, this is actually super cool here. So what we're doing here in Power Apps is that we're saying that warehouses, we didn't define that anywhere else. We just on the fly by saying it here, it got defined. And inventory management, that's the name of our connector, and it knows that it has a get API warehouse locations on it, function on it, which is our web API name, and it could call out there. So cool. I mean, it knows all this stuff, so it makes it real easy for us to develop, really super productive. All right. So next up, I'm going to actually add in a gallery. So it's like a list view. And in that gallery, I added my data source. I tied that to warehouses, which I created up before. And so I'm going to change the layout, make it a little bit neater for what I need to display. And then when I hit the button, and this is neat, in my design time, I'm not running the app yet. I just hit the button and my list view populated. Isn't that neat? It actually called out to the web API and populated everything. It's working all in design time. And it's like, I can test things out without running the app. My loop of development here is so quick and so fast. It's so productive. It's really, really cool. All right. So then I can even go through and scroll down and see all the warehouse locations being returned. And then I can actually go and run it and see it on the big screen if I wanted to as well. All righty. So that is our app. And okay, so let's sum everything up here. What we did is Power Apps itself has hundreds of connectors. I mean, you can connect to Microsoft products, like you can actually connect to like Outlook or to send emails, to view other people's calendars. You can connect to a Microsoft like Graph API to view like people's managers in Azure Active Directory. It's amazing of all the connectors that are out there, both from Microsoft and non-Microsoft services, to really make a powerful Power App. But there are times when there's not a pre-built connector that'll serve your needs, like the inventory management API that Justin and I were talking about, like getting a warehouse locations for your company. And that's where these custom connectors come in. And so what'll happen is then your traditional development team, your IT team, your professional developers can create that web API, put that into API management and export it directly to Power Apps, or your Power Apps development team, your citizen developers, can get OpenAPI document for a web API that exists anywhere, get that OpenAPI document, and then import that into Power Apps as well and use it. When they're importing it, I'm talking about building a custom connector from it. Once they get that custom connector, they bring it into their Power App and they just call it. They're just invoking a custom connector name dot, and then the functions will show up after the dot. So, Justin, you want to talk a little bit about more? Yeah.
Yeah. So again, we have walked through this Learn module today. So I'm hoping, and we are hoping, you have enjoyed it. So did you like it? So after this session, I would strongly encourage you to complete this module, right? So that you don't miss anything learned from this session today. There we have dealt with a lot of different concepts now. So yeah, so you don't want to lose those things. So right after session, please complete this module.
Cool. And if you like this format of these sessions, which is really neat, Learn TV is there's a Learn Live on it, and they do things like this all the time. I think once a week they run one of these, and yeah, they're super neat. They're a lot of fun to do, and so yeah. So I had a lot of fun, Justin. Do we have any questions that are in the chat that we could take a look at?
Yeah. So actually, we have run another OpenAPI with Azure Functions capability with Power Apps, Power Platforms. The live streaming yesterday. So I think the Rebecca has already pushed that link on the Q&A chat. So that's something you probably want to have a look further that. So what we did here is we just generally use the web API thing. And the session yesterday was about specifically on Azure Functions, how we can leverage Azure Functions with OpenAPI capability for your Power Apps or Power Platform application development.
Cool. Yeah, and that's really neat, is that you can actually, OpenAPI doesn't necessarily just need, it's for Azure Functions now, which is amazing. And Justin downplayed it. He did it. Justin did all the work for that. So it's amazing. Cool.
Awesome.
So do we have? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just
That's
going to
fine.
say.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. And I've been dropping links like crazy into the chat. So about the application development series that we're running that you're a part of, link to our YouTube, the links that you shared with us throughout the presentation, including the Learn Live. So this has been great. We've had some good engagement. Those quizzes were fun.
Great. Sounds good.
Was there anything else that, sorry, I had interrupted, anything else that you guys wanted to cover?
No,
awesome.
No, thanks for having us. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no, thank you all so much. And if everyone wants to just stick around for just a second longer, oops, I'm just going to share my slide here. Sorry about that. Here we go. So again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Justin and Matt, for running this presentation. It was fantastic. I think it went really well. April and Ricardo, thank you for helping out in the chat. And to the audience, thank you all for joining. I know, again, I don't want to harp on it too much, but thanks for sticking through and everything with the link situation earlier. The Microsoft Reactor, if you're not familiar with it, has 11 physical spaces located around the world, but most locations are currently virtual. So individuals can join from just about anywhere that their time zone and schedule aligns with our sessions. You can see our calendar and sessions in a few places. I dropped the link to the App Dev Series page on our main website. I also shared on YouTube our on-demand content. We're also on Meetup. If you're not a part of that yet, it's a great area for the tech community to get together and engage with free content. And then we also have an email sign up, aka.ms/reactor email sign up, and we send that out just once a month, and it highlights sessions that are in your region that are coming up in the following month. So do feel free to take advantage of that. And then at this time, I think we'll wrap it up as long as did any other questions come in? Okay, awesome. We got some wonderful feedback from the audience just thanking us. So again, Justin, Matt, thank you so much. This was great. Everyone have a good rest of your morning, your afternoon, or your evening, wherever you're joining from. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.